Okay, so Axis 1150 and 1300. I've already put a couple of videos out there having used these, just a few opinions, but they were both straight after I'd been foiling, and my thought process was still fairly unsettled or not best put together. So I'm just going to try and explain as best as I can the performance characteristics of these two foils, how they compare, what conditions they're best suited for, what their strengths and weaknesses are. This is all in my opinion, based on my riding style, the conditions I ride them in, and everything else like that. So they're the two biggest foils in the Axis Pump and Glide series. The 1150 is your classic high aspect ratio shape and design, very flat throughout. The gentle curve on the leading edge, fairly parallel with the trailing edge, very wide wingtips, and as such you get all the performance characteristics that you would expect from a high aspect foil. Really, really good glides, really good glides. They turn really well. This one, even for its size, is surprisingly easy to throw around, and it's got good manoeuvrability for its size, for sure. And the speed as well is you know, for a wing of this size, I was really impressed with the speed. Where this one really excels is its low end speed. It's got such a low stall speed, and that's really surprising for a foil that's got good top end speed and, you know, all the other characteristics. Normally a fast foil will have a much higher stall speed, but this one seems to have got the best of both worlds. It really does. Great glide, good speed, manoeuvrable for a foil of this size, yet a very, very low stall speed, which means when you're flat water pumping, you can save yourself from any mistakes, or if you suddenly come down low on the mast, you can really save yourself and get back up on the mast and carry on pumping. As a result, you can also pump it for a long, long time. Pump duration on this, my pump duration is way higher on this than any other foil. For wing foiling, I would say that it's probably going to be best suited to freestyle. Downwinding is really good, but this one's better. Freestyling, because it's more throw around, it's more manoeuvrable, it's much more forgiving of mistakes, and it's so much easier to control. This is a really, really easy foil to use. Not saying that 1300 is a difficult foil to use, but it's just slightly different. Wake foiling handles the second wake with ease, with no pumping whatsoever. I can go on the first wake, but second wake is where it excels, carving around beautifully, doing some nice turns on that, and for riding small swell, it's just unbelievable. You can pump it up with the subfoil boards and just ride waves that you didn't think you'd be able to, riding swell rather than waves. The 1300s is quite a different foil. I mean, to me, when I first saw it, I thought, well, that reminds me of a glider plane wing. It's got that sort of a look to it. I'm sure people who are experts in glider planes would disagree with me, or maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, it looks very different to the classic high aspect shape. And if I put it there next to the 1150, you'll notice instantly the difference in chord, but also it's not just that the chord is narrow. I think the leading edge has got much more of a curve to it. So if I put them like this, you'll see the leading edge curves up towards the wingtips, which goes towards creating a narrower, as you move from the centre of the foil towards the wingtips, it gets considerably narrower. So it's not just that it rakes back much more on the trailing edge, it's also that curve on the leading edge as well. I think it's thinner, maybe a little bit thinner as you go towards the wingtips as well. But this is a glider. This really is a glider. It'll pump well, but in a different way. Flat water pumping, it's not as easy. It's really difficult to start from a dock. Not impossible, but really difficult. Whereas this one is the easiest I've ever used. And when you're pumping it on flat water, you need a lot more energy, which is strange because I've just said it's got better glide. But you have to keep it going at a higher speed, and as such, higher speed, more drag, you get tired more quickly. But if you're not flat water pumping it, if you're say powered by a wind wing or by swell, waves, then you just don't need to pump it because it will glide on its own. All you've got to do pump-wise is keep it high on the mast. When I first started using this on a downwind run, I was trying to pump it to keep it going in the same style that I would a high aspect wing, and it just doesn't need that. In fact, you're working against yourself if you do that. You just need to keep yourself high on the mast. So if you feel yourself coming down, obviously your speed drops, you come down off the mast, just pump yourself up higher on the mast and it'll keep gliding. So you're not trying to pump to give yourself extra forward speed, although you can do that really effectively. If you want to get to the bit of swell in front of you, to move forward to the next bit of swell, 3 or 4 quick short pumps and it accelerates really nicely. It accelerates better than the 1150 to move forward to the next bit of swell. So you can do that. But really, if you just want to do, to maintain your speed and glide, just keep high on the mast and it'll keep going. So it's a very different foil to pump. And coupled with the extreme wingspan, it is in danger, if you're not careful, of taking control of you and maybe even bucking you off. If that happens to begin with, it can be a bit disconcerting because, a few times it bucked me off. I thought, what the hell? But you learn very quickly, like anything in foiling, you learn how to deal with some characteristic. And this is no different to that. You learn to control it, and you have to control it. If you don't control it, it will control you and buck you off. So yeah, that's something to be mindful of, but also you shouldn't be put off by it because you will learn to control that. So turning characteristics, I love it. I thought I would hate it, but I love it because whereas the 1150 feels like your classic high aspect ratio wing, this one feels more like what I can only describe as it feels like surfing a longboard. It really does. I come off the water with a big smile on my face. Hell, I've got a smile on my face the whole time I'm on the water with it. It's just a joy to use, it really is. It's cruisy, it's soulful, it's chilled. It's so smooth with its glide, and its glide is so consistent. So for wing foiling, the smallest amount of power in your wing, you will just keep going. For downwinding, now I haven't done it with my supboard yet. I've only done it with my prone board being pulled up, holding onto a rope behind a boat, and then letting go and just pumping downwind. And once you get used to that different technique, it's just unbelievable. Don't expect it to perform like the new HPS Black series or the GoFoil NL series. It's not one of those wings. It's not as throw around, it's not as fast, you can't pump it as aggressively. It's soulful, it's chilled. You've got to dial into that vibe, and then you'll just end up like me with a big ridiculous grin on your face for the whole day. So yeah, it's turning wise, you've got to, well, I found that it excels in those slow carves, rather like a nice bottom turn. Yeah, it's just awesome. So different characteristics, for pumping anyway, they both pump very differently, but they're both very effective when pumped in the right way. Glide, the 1300 is the winner, the clear winner, without a shadow of a doubt. And if you've used the 1150, you know how well that glides, so that gives you an inkling as to how good the 1300 is. Who are they suited for? Well, for the bigger, heavier rider, for sure. I'm 80 kilos. I think if you're closer to 70 or under, you might struggle to control this one. I don't know, I'm not that light, so I couldn't say for sure. But certainly for anybody heavier than 75, 80, 90 plus, this is the weapon I can imagine that would really do it for you, especially in light winds. The 1150, you know, you don't have to be a heavy guy to use this one. It's got use in the right conditions, light winds, small bumps, that sort of thing. I ladder jump from this and then pump out to swell and ride the swell, downwind on the swell on it, and it's just awesome. Now, tails. Let's have a look. So these are my two tails from Axis. The 460 high aspect flat tail. I use this one for flat water pumping because you get every bit of energy transferred into forward movement with this tail. That's what it feels like anyway. The 1150 and this tail, it's just a dream to pump, it really is. Any other combination or any other foil that I've used, you can tell that there's too much of your energy going into lift, needed for lift, or there's too much drag, or you know, it's just there's something not right. But here and here is the dream for flat water pumping. It really is. The turns, for me anyway, this will turn with a wider arc than a smaller tail, and my smaller tail is the 370. It's got a deeper chord, so you've got really good lift, but the shape, the design, the upturned wingtips, I'm assuming, all feed into the fact that this is a really playful, really fun tail. It's manoeuvrable without being too skittish. It's a little bit skatey, but not too much. Still pumps really well. So for wind winging, this is an awesome tail. I love it. For wake foiling, if I'm messing around, carving it up, I'll still use this tail. If I'm doing a lot of transitions, say moving from the second wake to the third wake, back to the second wake, or maybe right up to the first wake, and then around the boat, pumping around the boat, that sort of thing, then I'll switch over to the flat tail because it's just so much more efficient for pumping. So, what else do I need to say? The 1300, when I'm wake foiling, I find that I'm a good few meters outside from the bubble line, so outside from the centre, wider out. The 1150, I'm just outside of the bubble line, and like I said before, I can ride that second wake without any pumping. I can carve around nicely, have a lot of fun, still do transitions and everything else. But the 1300, I can do that a good few meters outside of that, where I'm like, where is the wake? You can't see it, but you can feel it driving you forward, so it must be there. It's such a lovely feeling. Like I said, this feels like a longboard. I'm out there just gliding and just doing some really nice gentle carves from side to side, pumping out, rejoining the third wake, cruising there for a bit, pumping out, back to the second wake. It's just, it really is. Once you've got a little bit of forward speed, a little bit of drive, it's very easy to pump. Just not for as long on its own as the 1150. Okay, I hope I've covered everything. If you've got any questions, please feel free to hit me up with a message. I'll do my best to answer them. But really, you can see how stoked I am with these foils. They are awesome. Whichever one you choose, you are going to have a blast. You really are. Depending on your conditions, that for me, weight and the conditions you're riding in is going to dictate which is best for you. So pick your weapon and you will have fun. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. Cool, okay, right, so have a good time, stay safe, keep foiling, see you later, bye.